Hi, I'm Cheryl Gifford, people and culture consultant, coach, and facilitator, and this is episode 6 of the Wholehearted Hub. We kicked off February last episode with our topic of vulnerability. And today we're here to talk about why success is dependent on vulnerability, being vulnerable. I talked about vulnerability last time being the exposure to something that is uncertain or comes with risk, or perhaps that we fear, especially if it's personal. I think that the most vulnerable things feel the most personal most often. And I just want to be clear that while I think I described it as being courageous enough to walk hand in hand with whatever that uncertain thing is, whatever that fear is, or that risk is, it's not black and white in the sense that if you aren't vulnerable, you lose, or if you are vulnerable, that you win. Unless, of course, you define success as being courageous and having the courage to show up for those things, then you're winning. But success and the definition of success is going to be unique and individual to each person. What you think success is or what it means to you is going to be totally unique. Same with what vulnerability is. So let's start by talking about what makes you feel most vulnerable. What is vulnerability to you? There could be a million examples. I think I wrote a blog where I talked about people asking for a promotion, or perhaps you feel most vulnerable if you are telling the person you love that you love them for the first time, or asking for your needs to be met, or going on a first date, or asking for a salary increase. There's a million things that could potentially make someone feel vulnerable. Maybe it has something to do with being a parent or being a partner or starting a business. There are lots of different examples. And so I would ask you, for the purpose of this exercise, sit and take a moment to think about what makes you feel most vulnerable. I'll do the exercise as well. So if I take a moment and think about what makes me feel vulnerable, I'm going to ignore the word most. What makes me feel vulnerable? It's trying something for the first time. Being a beginner for me feels very vulnerable. A lot of people have a fear of failure, so perhaps the beginner's approach could feel like failing because you're not yet good at something. I'll share a couple of personal examples. So a few years ago, I signed up for a ceramics class for the first time, and I was so nervous. I remember going to the first class, and I was like, "Ah," totally terrified. And then I had to sit myself down and be like, Cheryl, you didn't sign up for this to become a famous sculptor. You're doing this for fun. It's an exercise in growth and development. Get over it. Some of you who may follow me or who may know me also know that I take boxing lessons. And when I was signing up for boxing, I was also terrified because I didn't feel like I had the perhaps athleticism that it would require, or, just making a fool out of myself. And I didn't sign up for it to become a fighter. So also me being my worst critic. And so it just proves to me, and as examples of the fact that trying something new for the first time definitely makes me feel vulnerable. So what is vulnerability to you? And the next question is, what is success for you? Success will be defined by each person completely individually. Every unique person, every unique and beautiful snowflake will define success differently. So why do I say that success depends on vulnerability? What it really comes down to, and for me, I mean, would this even be a YouTube episode about vulnerability if we didn't talk about the master herself, Brene Brown? Brene Brown describes vulnerability as the birthplace of love, joy, belonging, courage, empathy, and creativity. What would success even be without those things? And it may be a little bit cheeky for me to say that success depends on vulnerability, but I'm encouraging you to look at the ultimate success as being willing to be vulnerable and expose yourself and expose others to the most authentic and true you. What feels the most vulnerable is probably the exposure of a risk to ourselves, our whole selves as a human being. So, being your most authentic self and finding success in those things, that birthplace of love, joy, creativity, courage, empathy, which we're going to talk about, belonging, finding success, whatever it is for you, if it's becoming a millionaire or starting a business, doing it as your true self and having your true self be who shows up for whatever that success is, that's why I believe that it's dependent on it. How can we create the space for more vulnerability in life for ourselves and for others to truly let our whole selves shine? What a beautiful world. It's the world that I imagine. And so last time I left you with a reflection of what vulnerabilities would you be willing to try on more of in your day to day to get more of what you want? This time, I want you to leave this episode and consider what you will do to make space for more vulnerability in those around you. Perhaps it's in a workplace, maybe you're a leader or a teammate. What can you do to create space for more vulnerability in those in your life? If it's not the workplace, maybe it's your personal life. Maybe it's a family member, maybe it's another loved one or a friend. What could you do? And what could come of it? What is the potential? I'm only supposed to ask one question. Sorry, one reflection. So what will you do to make more space in your life for more vulnerability for those around you and for yourself? Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you never want to miss an episode. See you next week.